We've come to the end of the 2024 recruiting cycle, so naturally, it's time to name a recruiter of the year here at Rivals.com. Joining me is Jed May to help us do so, and big shocker, Georgia's got the #1 class, so naturally they'll have the recruiter of the year. We'll go up front in the trenches where Georgia has been as good as anyone in the country, and Trey Scott gets the nod from us here at Rivals. Jed, just on the surface, Trey's been there for quite a while. He's built great defensive lines at UGA. What makes this 2024 class special?
I just think you've got good players at kind of multiple positions along the line. You've got a big guy in the middle. You've got a couple guys at that, a 3 tech. They can move around, play 0, play 5, and then you got a couple. You got a five-star 5 tech in Joseph Jonah. So it's not just hey, he landed a bunch of great defensive ends. He landed a bunch of tackles. It's multiple spots along the line where they load it up, and it's a Georgia defensive line that is, I don't want to say thin because it's hard to say you're thin when you've got so many guys, but they're going to be losing a lot of experience after the 23 season, after the 24 season. So it was imperative to kind of really load up on this cycle, and Trey Scott definitely did that.
Yeah, I really want to dig into, of course, the highest ranked, Joseph Jonah earned that 5th star after his great showing, dominant showing at the Under Armour All-America Week in Orlando. But really, this evaluation has kind of ascended every step of the way over the last year or so. When he committed to Georgia just inside that Rivals 250 last summer and just kind of continued to steadily climb all the way up into 5-star status. What does it say about not only the kid and his ability to close well as his senior year came to a close, but also the evaluation of Trey? Because we assume at Georgia, hey, they're all 5 stars and they're going to go out and get them and just win the recruitment. But obviously there's a lot of evaluation that goes on and is probably undervalued from the general consensus.
Yeah, the evaluations are huge. And when Georgia offered him, Joseph was a guy I was unfamiliar with. And actually I had Ben Golan from our Texas Tech site DM me. And I was like, yeah, this kid is a stud. And Joseph told me when he got offered, he's like, yeah, Georgia's my dream school with what they do, developing guys and everything like that. Committed in July, and it's just like you said, continued to ascend. And he's a guy who Georgia needs guys to get after the passer. And he is a guy who you can put at that defensive end spot, kind of like his size reminds me of Michael Williams a little bit. And you put him on the edge, he's big enough, thick enough to hold up against the run. And then on those 3rd down packages, man, you could let him roll. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he carves out a situational role for himself at least in year 1 at Athens, because Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann like to have a lot of fun with those 3rd down packages, and he's a guy who definitely might find himself on the field sooner rather than later.
Yeah, can't have enough jumbo interior pass rushers, especially in SEC country and with the new additions coming to the SEC in 2024. You talked about a Michael Williams body type for Jonah Ajonye. If we're going to play the comparison game, let's go to the state of North Carolina. Trey Scott's got a ton of roots there. Obviously, Jordan Davis came from there, and I'm told he was on the assist for one of the other big interior commitments.
Yeah, Nnamdi Ogboko out of Gardner, North Carolina is a guy who Georgia kind of really, I don't want to say like really started putting the full court press on, I guess, over the summer. He took an official visit, and on that official visit, like you said, they brought in Jordan Davis to, I guess, sell him on because like Jordan Nnamdi he's a 3-star. We got him listed at 6'4", 349. So what more of a perfect comparison? It's a lazy comparison, not lazy, but it's the low-hanging fruit comparison, but it also seems very appropriate. And listen, Jamal Jarrett was kind of in these shoes last year in the 23 class as well. So another big guy from North Carolina is kind of the Trey Scott trademark at this point. Now, Boko certainly fills those shoes as the big space eater in the middle of that defensive line.
Yeah, so Joseph Ajonye from Texas, of course, Nnamdi from North Carolina, but you're always going to recruit the Peach State pretty well on top of it. A couple of guys on board. I'm a big fan of Nasir Johnson, just a guy who can do a little bit of everything, again, on the interior where we know there's a huge need. Tell us more about him, Justin Green, and those guys.
Yeah, so Nasir, it was funny when I saw him play, me and a couple other reporters, like, whoa, this guy's a lot bigger than we kind of thought. He plays offensive guard for Dublin, so he's very athletic. He told me that Georgia views him as the ath of the defensive line, the infamous ath designation for these guys. So he can play, he can kick inside, he can kick outside, he could be, 6'5", 290. His primary home is probably that 3-tech spot. But with his athleticism, he can play multiple spots. So a huge late flip from Florida. They're A, helping you, B, keeping him from going to an SEC rival. He's a guy who could really, after maybe a year of seasoning, maybe be just a game wrecker on the interior. And then Justin Green's a guy who seemed like a Georgia lean for a really long time, committed after an official visit in June and never really wavered. Don't think he ever took another visit. It was pretty much a done deal from there. So a quiet guy, not a huge personality, but a really technically sound guy who is going to anchor the middle of that defensive line as well.
Yeah, so another year, another number one class, and another group of elite prospects coming into UGA, especially up front, which is why Trey Scott gets the nod for the Rivals.com Recruiter of the Year. Thanks for joining us, Jed.
Yep, anytime.